So now we're going to start getting into the beef of potatoes.
You're listening to a Cult Talk Network podcast.
File access granted.
Hello, all you believers, idealists, skeptics, and all those who question the universe around them. I'm Bailey.
And I'm Ty. And this is Cult Talks Conspiracy. Summer at Sea 2. We're kicking things off. We're pushing off and heading out to sea for our annual ocean-based conspiracy event to make you hashtag question everything before you go back into the water.
Yes.
We did this last year. It was super fun. And we decided to bring it back. What better way to set the mood for summer than a little trip out to the sea?
It's because there's just too much shit that happens in the ocean that we can't pack it all into one summer. We got to keep coming back.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, oh my gosh, I've said it before. I'll say it again. I will not go out there, but when I am rich enough, I will fund someone else to go out there. Because no, absolutely not. I was up super late last night, like past midnight, which is not common for me because I'm a little old lady. And for some reason, like my feed like started showing me like weird weather and ocean anomalies. Like it had to be in preparation for this episode. But I was seeing like big figures walk through storms and then like shadows being seen in the ocean. And I'm like, y'all, that's Odin. Like y'all need to calm down.
I love shit like that. What's that called? Like thalassophobe. There's a term for it, like of like the fear of like big things in the ocean.
Whatever it is, I have
forget
it.
what it's called. Yeah, that creeps me out. I love watching videos like that though. I love like being creeped out because I don't get scared by a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I'm so rotted with like horror and stuff.
Yeah.
From watching from a kid, it's really hard to scare me. But like I like those videos do get me. Like the videos of shadows in the water and things, giant things rising up from the sea. Like that really creeps me out. So I like watching that sometimes just to feel something.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Feel a little fear.
Ben and I started watching Blue Planet, and they have like a ocean depths episode, and like these things are fucking aliens. Like you ever want to see an alien in real life? Go to the bottom of the ocean. I promise you. Like it's like no. Like the one that always freaks me out is the one with the big teeth that has the lantern on its head.
Yeah, the anglerfish.
Yeah, I hate those fuckers. Those are not from this planet. I'm convinced.
Oh, there's a lot of shit down there. It just looks too bizarre to be real.
Some of them are even
out of like sci-fi movies.
Oh my gosh, some of them are even like translucent because, or not like see-through.
Yeah, translucent.
Okay, awesome. Because like it's so dark down there, like they have like no anything, like no pigmentation, no light, and no nothing. And it's like, could you imagine living and like having an entire like life, let alone ecosystem down there where it's like they're blind because they just don't like there's no light. There's no point in having that sense.
Yeah, nothing to see down there.
Like it's crazy to me. It's also why I love the movie Descent so much. It's because they're in complete darkness. So like the creatures in Descent have to use all their other senses. If you haven't seen that movie by now, first of all, what are you doing? Second of all, go watch it.
Yeah, we talk about that in the Iceberg videos.
We talk about it in Iceberg. I think we did a Cultober episode just on the movie Descent as well.
Yeah, we did on Cultober Plus. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we did the Descent episode back just last year. Pretty sure.
And that is on the Cultober Plus feed over there if you guys want to go listen to all that. Yep. But today we are talking about something that is probably one of my worst fears ever, which is drowning. If you guys missed it in the last episode, just to recap, I have an inherent fear of being underwater. I can't even do caves. And it's because as a kid, I almost drowned. You want to hear that story? You're going to have to go back over to Phoenix Lights and find where that is. But this story, so first of all, I have to address the little elephant in the room. This is not a missing 411 story. We have a little bit of that coming a little bit later on. I promise. But here's the thing. David Paulides, and he does have a book of lake and oceanic disappearances and whatnot.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't
Yeah,
know
I
that.
just found this out. He was on Coast to Coast, which I've listened to a lot of Coast to Coast here recently. I feel like my childhood is circling back. You throw in Dave Ramsey podcast and like that's all we listened to in road trips was Coast to Coast and Dave Ramsey throughout my father's road trips with us. And so he announced that he had that book coming out, but the episode I listened to mainly focused on like land, air, and lake disappearances. And what I like and I don't like about it is the air and the sea disappearances kind of go hand in hand because it's like they had to like go all the way out there to get there. But anyway, that's coming later. I don't have a lot of details on the missing 411 oceanic mysteries, but what I do have for you is something from the down under. We're going to Australia today.
Oh, nice. So that's going to be
Yes.
fun. So we're going to be talking about Australia. It's a little bit of missing 401 stuff, right? But not that much. I guess it'll be a 411 centric episode.
So yes. So yes and no. This is a mysterious disappearance, mysterious drowning. Spoiler alert: this person's body was never found. It was very mysterious of the whole leadings ups to the disappearance. It's
Okay.
Prime Minister Harold Holt of Australia.
So you want to get into it real quick?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it before I give too much away.
You're chomping at the bit.
I am ready. I'm ready. Listen, this episode, I'm not even going to lie to all of you, was difficult. Like it was like I was literally at the 11th hour trying to figure out what to do because there's so many missing like drownings and conspiracies. And it's like, I didn't know if I wanted to do a creature feature. I didn't know if I wanted to, just do like a hunting thing. I had no idea. But then I found Prime Minister Harold Holt and I was just like captivated by it. So that's what we're doing today.
Oh, perfect.
And without any further ado, let us unseal this file number 044, Lost to the Depths, the unexplained drowning of Prime Minister Harold Holt. So, Tyler, have you ever heard of this gentleman, Prime Minister Harold Holt of Australia? Never. Neither had I.
Never.
Neither had I. So we're just going to get straight into who this man is. Because honestly, so this really kind of rang echoes to me of JFK and like a lot of the conspiracies around his assassination and everything, and about how people like wanted to take him out because of his political power and what he wanted to do with the country. As I was reading this story, there were definitely echoes of JFK's story coming out in this. So this is why we're talking about this today. But Mr. Harold Holt was born on August 5th in 1908. He died, unfortunately, was declared dead, on December 19th, 1967. He served political office from 1966 as prime minister until his disappearance in 1967. So he only had a year as the prime minister of Australia. So he ran from the Liberal Party of Australia as well. And then he would also be succeeded by a couple gentlemen from that same Liberal Party as well, which we'll get into a little bit later.
Okay.
So before his journey into politics, Holt actually studied to become a lawyer. However, this was during the time of the Great Depression in the 1930s, which was a huge economical downfall. Like people think that we have it super bad now, and it can absolutely get a lot worse. But like people were like, this was horrible. People were having to choose not to send their children to school because it just cost too much money. And like that, it was awful. It was absolutely awful. So Great Depression was happening. And whenever you go into a big recession like that, anything that's like considered extra, like suing somebody, goes off the table. So during this time, while he had a new law practice, it would unfortunately be unsuccessful because of the result of the Great Depression and people not having those extra funds to, sue somebody or even pay for services of a lawyer for anything else. So Harold would actually find himself sleeping in boarding houses and as well as couch surfing at some friends' houses as well. But let's not cry for, Mr. Harold Holt, because he's fixing to have a turnaround. Because in 1933, Holt would join the Young Nationalist Party of Australia, which would begin his rise into politics. He would become the youngest acting political member of the party at only 27 years old, which is
wow.
which is how old I am right now. Can you imagine me at 27 years old in politics?
I couldn't have done that when I was
No.
I did not have. I don't have the mindset for now. I'm 33. I don't have the mindset to even attempt that kind of stuff.
That's
zero interest in that kind of responsibility.
Yeah, no, thank you. I have enough. It's fine. So this would actually be at the start of World War II, which was soon to come after his, joining of the Nationalist Party. The start of World War II would actually result in Holt enlisting in the Australian Army as a part of the Imperial Force. Holt was quoted as saying, "I could not feel happy about my position if I were not prepared to make some sacrifices and take part of the action." Or take an active part, excuse me. So he really was one of those, nut up or shut up kind of people. Like, he's not going to sit there behind a desk and let other people go fight for him. He was like, no, I'm young, I'm able, I can do this. I need to get in there and do it for my country, which shows a lot of character.
Yeah.
So before making it to his intended post, which I believe was I think it was in Afghanistan. Was it Afghanistan? No, it wouldn't have been Afghanistan. I don't know. I'm talking out of my ass. I don't know where he was supposed to be stationed. I had it in my memory and then it went poof. So before making it to his intended post, he was actually called back to Australia after a disaster in Canberra in 1940 when an aircraft crashed into the capital of Australia. 3 out of the 10 passengers. Oh, yeah.
Right in there.
Just crashed in the capital.
Was it like a military plane?
Nope.
Or like just a...
Nope.
Oh, just some civilian?
It was a recreational flight. However, 3 out of the 10 passengers on this flight that were killed included members of the Australian cabinet and the chief of general staff. So we now have major job outages. And like this is bad. This is actually part of the reason why in the UK the king or queen and the next to take the crown are not allowed to be on the same flight together. They're never allowed to be in the same vehicle together. That's why you won't see King Charles and Prince William and Prince George ever in the same vehicle together. It is a royal protocol. It is to protect the next line to the throne.
Yeah, they have the same thing with the U.S. They have like the
that's right.
President and the vice president don't travel together.
That's right.
For the same reason. Yeah.
Is the designated survivor still a real thing? Like, there's always one political
I'm pretty
member.
Sure that's a thing. Yeah, like someone has to stay back at all times.
Yeah.
Just to maintain order if anything is to happen.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's still a thing.
Nice. So this is why we do this, because after this plane crash, which is so unfortunate, there were some major staffing changes that need to happen. And there was what kept being referred to as a shuffle that happened. So Holt would actually be promoted as a result of this disaster, which would set him on the course to becoming prime minister in later years. So he tries to start a law firm and that doesn't work. And then he's trying to go off to war and then is immediately called back for political duty. So it was really kind of fate at this point, like guiding him to where he was going to be. Or at least I think so. I don't know. So in 1941, while Holt had been promoted, but not quite yet prime minister, he would actually pass what was known as the Child Endowment Act, which made child welfare payments available to the public. For this, he was called the Godfather of Australia.
Wow.
So it basically
That's a pretty good title.
Oh, yeah. So, like, for the way I understand it, it's basically government funds to help people with children who, like, have a really hard time.
Okay.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And in 1941, like, fresh out of the Depression, like, people need that. So fabulous timing, fabulous thing to do. Absolutely fabulous name to get for it. So 1949 to 1956, he was also the Minister for Immigration, expanding the immigration program and had a lot more care and flexibility for immigrants coming into the country versus the previous administration. Now, something I didn't know about Australia, and any of you guys from Australia listening out there who know a little bit more on this, and please feel free to correct me if I, make any mistakes here because I don't know. So they had this white Australia policy, which was basically keeping people from certain countries and certain peoples out of Australia and keeping them from immigrating into Australia. And it was basically a way to protect the Australian people, protect the integrity of the Australian people, from what I understand it. But Holt was not a fan of this whatsoever. So during his time as Prime Minister, Holt made moves to reform the Constitution there, especially toward the Indigenous Australians. And this was even through his oppositions of some colleagues, which he created the Aboriginal Affairs. So the Aboriginal Affairs, as described by the website, is the National Indigenous Australians Agency is committed to implementing the government's policies and programs to improve the lives of all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. So basically, they're wanting to take care of everybody within the country. Beautiful. We love that.
Yeah, great idea.
We love that. So he's doing a lot of wonderful things, not only within his, early political career, because he's been in it since he was 27 at this point. Now we're getting into the point where he's in his early 60s. So, far.
So this dude was doing for what, 30 years?
Yeah,
pretty much?
30,
Over
yeah.
30 years?
Oh, yeah, over 30. Let me do some mathematical calculations here.
Yeah, if he's in his 60s, that'd be 34, 33 years, something like that.
Yeah, so 59 at the time of his death, and 49. 41 at the time of passing, or at the time of creating the Aboriginal Affairs. 41 years old. 41 years old.
Wow.
We have most of our politicians in America start running for president at 41 years old. Because there's and that's not being ageist or anything. There's a certain age limit. I think you have to be over 30 or 35 in order to run, because they want to make sure that you've established a political career. Harold's over here, 27, starting his career, and then at 41, he's making big boss moves. That's pretty amazing in my eyes. So now we're going to talk about why we're here today, which is his very mysterious disappearance. On Sunday morning, December 17th, so really quick for the Americans, summer in Australia is from December to February. So our seasons are literally flipped. So I know we're going to be throwing out December dates, and we're talking about the ocean. We're on the other side of the planet here, guys. It's flipped. So on a Sunday morning, December 17th in 1967, Holt and some friends went to Cheviot Beach, Cheviot Beach in Melbourne, a frequented spot for Holt and his family.
Okay.
At this time, Holt was nearing 60 years old at the right age of 59, and a lot of his friends would actually comment on the water conditions this day being a tad rough. The sea tide was described as being very high, and the surf was very turbulent, and the current was actually so harsh that a friend would not go any further into the water than what his knees could. However, Harold said no. And he just kept going deeper and deeper into the water, regardless of the tide. And as it was described by friends and witnesses, one moment Harold was there, the next moment he was gone. A massive search party went underway to find the missing prime minister. Harold's wife, Zara Bate, was described by reporters as being distraught during the search and was surrounded by friends and family in their nearby holiday home during the search. So, this poor woman, can you imagine, 1940s, this guy is missing. We don't have all the underwater rescue equipment, then that we do today. And, she's being, oh my gosh. So, in some of the videos that I found, because ABC and then I think BBC also covered this really, really well. There's a
Okay.
like
So
40-minute video from
was there other
ABC.
videos of like him disappearing or anything? Or?
No, just of interviews with the search party, interviews with the police lieutenants, the divers that went down there. Really, really good stuff. There's also video of his memorial service as well, which we'll talk a little bit about. But like this poor woman, it's like, so in one of the videos, you can see her car trying to get around people. And like, you can't see her because they weren't like trying to like, I always think of Princess Diana when they're like right up at the car window trying to get photos of everyone. But they were like, you could just see the car driving past, and it's like my heart sank for that woman. No pun intended. But my heart hurt for her is what I'm just saying. So Tom Jones from the ABC, who we talked about the ABC covering a lot of this, he actually interviewed the diving team that evening that Harold went missing. And the divers were told at first that it was another diver that was missing. There was no mention of this being the Prime Minister. However, they still responded with the quickness and was on the scene within 5 minutes and then in the water very shortly after. So one of the divers actually described the conditions as, quote, like being in a washing machine, end quote, and the visibility being very, very low and only being able to see about 3 to 4 feet in front of them. It ain't looking good. It ain't looking good for Prime Minister Holt.
No, I mean, that sounds like the worst possible conditions to be trapped in. So I read online that, like, if you're in open water, theoretically, a person can survive a couple hours. If they're
really?
not, if they keep their wits about them, you can survive for a pretty decent period of time. But it takes a lot. It takes a lot of focus to do it. Because you can do things like floating on your back, kind of calming your breath to give yourself more buoyancy, things of that nature. Of course, it's all going to depend on the state of the water as well. Choppy surf and things like that. It sounds like this isn't very ideal conditions, anyways. But most people only survive seconds when they drown, when they're in sea, because you panic and you'll kind of lose yourself to the ocean at that point. Between a couple seconds and a few hours is what most people are able to survive in the ocean, just depending on how well they keep their wits and what the conditions are like. This doesn't sound like very ideal conditions regardless.
That sounds like too big of a deficit for me to go gambling on. You'll either survive a few seconds or a couple hours. The choice is yours.
It all depends on how you behave. I mean, because if you start drowning, you start panicking, you're going to open your mouth, let water in.
We already know how I've reacted, Ty. We already know. If water is involved, Bailey's going to die. Like, that's it.
But if if you're able to keep your wits about you, you can, float for a good bit of time. Whether or not you'll be seen or, find yourself in shallow waters or whatnot. But so there is a pretty big deficit of how long you can survive. It just depends on the conditions.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, like Harold, like he kept going in was the thing. And like everyone else in his party seems like none of them would really go past, where they could see like their legs. Or at least not where like they could be carried off. Like Harold was all the way out there in the tide. So unfortunately, Prime Minister Harold Holt would never be found. 5 days after his disappearance, a memorial service took place at St. Paul's Angelus Cathedral in Melbourne. Thousands of citizens would be in attendance, along with former prime ministers, President Johnson, Charles, Prince of Wales, now King Charles, was there in representation of Queen Elizabeth II. Holt would be succeeded first by John McEwen as an interim basis, and then on December 19th. That would happen on December 19th, and then going into January of 1968, John McEwen would be replaced by John Gorton, who both of these gentlemen were also from the Liberal Party of Australia. So John Ewan, I think it was said that he was like I'm probably not going to get this right. I'm really sorry, but it's like a country general or something like that. Like he basically like was the second in command to the prime minister. So that's why he got that position first. And then after that, John Gordon was selected to come in 1968. Which he did some really cool things too. He was like, I didn't look up a whole lot on him, but he also made some waves. Oh my God. Guys, I'm not doing this on purpose. It's just happening. Jerry from Cult of Lore is getting to me. So now the theories, because there are quite a few theories, and we've saved our biggest one for last on this one.
Okay.
So
Perfect.
The first theory, which is probably I guess the most contemplated one, I would imagine, is that this was suicide. Holt,
Really?
Oh yeah. A lot of people think that he went out there to take his own life for whatever reason, whether it was the backlash he was getting politically, whether it was the pressure, he was unsatisfied within his life. Well, we would never know. But Holt's family adamantly denied this being the way of his taking his own life. His friends actually stated that the day this happened, or the day his disappearance happened, he was extremely happy. I can't get over the fact that he still kept going into the water after knowing how bad the conditions were. And I mean,
that's the wild thing. He just kept going back in. It's almost like he was asking for something to happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I don't think I mentioned he frequented this beach a lot. So he knew what good and bad conditions were on this beach. However, it could just be a case of he bit off a little bit more than he could chew and really paid the price for it. You know, that's one of the ones that we never really will know unless like we could, get a portal and go talk to him. But, his family like adamantly denies that it was suicide. Second theory is that he was assassinated by the CIA for Holt wishing to pull troops from the Vietnam War.
Huh.
We got him.
What?
So here's the thing. Holt was actually criticized for ramping up the Vietnam's popularity in Australia. It actually decreased his public popularity a lot by his support of the Vietnam War. And at this time, there was no indication that Holt was getting ready or planning to pull troops because of his open support of the Vietnam War. So that one, I'm not gonna lie, the CIA did some sketchy shit, but the reasoning behind it, it's like there's no indication that he was getting ready to pull troops. If anything, it seems like he was keeping troops there for a while. So I don't know. I don't give much credence to that one just because there's evidence against it. Now, here's our meat and potatoes, which there is a book written on this one, and I cannot wait to get my hands on this. So he faked his own death. Prime Minister Harold Holt of Australia may have faked his own death. But why, you may ask? So remember there's certain people in those certain countries that we talked about a little bit earlier that were kind of part of that anti-immigration policy?
Right.
So that country was mainly China and the Chinese people.
Okay.
So, and here's the thing. I didn't look into all that because I don't know. And there's a lot of hot topics about immigration right now. And I just don't want to go into all that. But anyway, we're going to talk about the theory. So it was speculated that Holt may have actually faked his own death and went to China because he was a long-term Chinese spy. Now,
jeez.
Yes. So he was accused of being a nationalist and a part of the communist regimes in China. This would be an indicator for his motivation to allow people from China into the country, because one of the number one countries on that list, people from here can't come here, was China. There was a huge thing again, it was not good. So according to the book, The Prime Minister Was a Spy by Anthony Gray, his involvement began in 1929 when he was still a student at Melbourne University. After his research papers came to their attention, he was recruited by the Consul General in Melbourne to write pro-Chinese articles. In 1931, Holt would become the, I'm going to say this wrong, Kuomintang's intelligence agent for Australia, also to serve in Australia and then report back to the intelligence agency. This was part of the Chinese Nationalist Party, and these agents would report directly to, I'm also going to pronounce this wrong, Chiang Kai-shek, a Chinese politician and military leader. He also had major involvement in the revolution to overthrow the Binyang government and reunify China. This was also done with the help and the support of the Soviets and the Chinese Communist Party. So we're kind of starting to see where this is going.
Yep.
So once in office, Holt became a very big asset to the intelligence agency. Not only because he was in political office, but he was also a very big figure at that time. He was making a lot of movements to change a lot of different regimes there. So what would happen, what was speculated to happen, was he would get cabinet paperwork and documents from the Australian government and cabinet, and then he would pass those along to the Chinese, like spying, and basically getting all the insider information.
Damn, so he was pretty well in office.
Pretty well into office. Like, this is 1929, or 1931, excuse me. So this is like right kind of smack dab in the middle of where he's at. And then I think in 33 was when he became prime minister. Let me scroll back to my note. No, it was not. It was 41. 41. So yeah, we're about 8 years off from that. But still making like huge movements within office. I mean, the guy was in office since he was 27 years old. Like, he's indoctored into that. That's his whole career at that point.
Yeah. He's been in there basically most of his life.
Oh, yeah. So Holt had actually become a sleeper agent when the Chinese Communist Revolution broke out in 1952. And then he was actually contacted by, I hate this word, Kuomintang agents, the agency.
Yeah.
And he was actually paid 30,000 yen to resume as a spy. So in US dollars, that would be, in 1952, that would be $38,193. Today, to throw in inflation and all that, or adjust for inflation, excuse me, that would be $447,256.
Wow.
Almost $500,000.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a lot of money to be just offered to you for information. That's quite substantial.
Quite a bit, but also you got like weigh in the possible consequences. I mean, that's $500,000, but still, like, if you're found out, you're doing like life in prison.
You're probably gonna die for treason.
You'll probably die. Yeah, you'll definitely may catch a death penalty. That's treason. I mean, that's not looked very lightly by any country. So.
No, like, I mean, that was bad. That was bad. King Henry VIII accused quite a few wives of treason, and we know what happened to them.
Yep.
So in 1954, he had deactivated his status voluntarily. So he took the offer in 1952. 2 years later, he decides, I'm done. He wants to deactivate. Okay, that's fine. So they let him go. However, by 1957, he would reactivate his spy status after certain conditions were met by the Chinese Communist Party. One of these conditions was that he was given an escape route in case he was ever discovered. And this came in the form of a submarine positioned at the Australian coast. In May of 1967, Holt began to suspect that the Australian Security Intelligence Organization had become aware of his dealings. So in December of that year, he would fake his own death by drowning, where in reality, once he went under the surface, Holt would be dragged by his ankles by two Chinese frogmen, quote unquote, so swimmy, and then guided to a conning tower, a raised platform ship, where a Chinese submarine would be waiting for him, and he would be able to get away. According to Gray, Holt spent...
Pretty elaborate.
I know, right? This is like some James Bond shit.
Bond stuff. Yeah, exactly. It's James Bond stuff. So he would have went under the ocean. When he gets drowned, these divers would have scooped him up, taken him to a submarine, and off he went.
Yep. Basically, yeah. But it's like, did they bring extra oxygen? Was there a route in mind?
They would have had to. Because, I mean, they would have had to have taken him a good distance away just to, like, not be seen, right?
Right, yeah. And, like, they're taking him to a giant platform ship. Like, that's going to be seen by a few people.
Right. There's got to be some, they would have had to have had, like, oxygen or something.
Oh, yeah. Like, totally James Bond. Like, his suit probably transforms into a wetsuit. Just saying.
Something like that, yeah.
So according to Gray, Holt spent the rest of his life in Beijing, and the Australian Security Intelligence Organization erased any trace of any deception done by the now deceased Prime Minister. So, was the Prime Minister of Australia, Harold Holt, a spy? That is the question. Well, Tom Frame, Holt's biographer, actually described this account as being a complete fabrication and cited no corroborating evidence to the claims as none of the referred documents in the book were ever produced, even after publication.
Did they ever find I'm guessing his body was never
They never found his body. Yep, they never found his body. So Holt was actually also self-stated to be very anti-communist as well. This was stated by not only him in interviews, it was also stated by colleagues of his and family members that he was very anti-communist.
It's good cover.
Right? It's like, yeah, I don't like them. No.
I don't like those guys. I never work with them.
No, I'm not working with those people.
Right.
So also the fact that this large amount of money, again, like $500,000 in today's standards or damn near close, this large amount of money was never reflected within his own lifestyle. Now, that could also mean that, offshore accounts have been a thing for a very, very long time. So it doesn't mean that the money wasn't put somewhere else. However, if he had taken this money, not only would it mean that he kept it from his wife and his family, it also meant that he had a backup plan that did not include his wife and his family. Whether that means that they were going to have plausible deniability, that he was living a double life, or whether it means it's all just a bunch of horse hockey, I don't know. But either way, this large sum of money was never accounted for and never represented in his life. And the biggest misnomer is the fact that the water in Cheviot Beach were much too shallow for submarines. So going back to your point where you'd have to take him out way farther in order to get there, like it's too shallow. You can't.
Yeah, they would have had to take him out past the surf and everything. Like it would be, they would have, like I said, they would have had to have had extra oxygen and
all kinds.
It would have been a whole thing.
All kinds. I mean, you'd basically have to take 2 people and a third person just to be a pack mule. Basically. I mean, I don't know how diving works, but I mean... So lawsuits against certain publications would actually come out in accusing them of slandering Harold Holt for the untrue claims. However, no one has been able to prove that they acted in bad faith, thus losing all the lawsuits. Because the thing that you have to do with slander is you have to prove that that the person who did the slander did it to cause you harm, basically. I'm not a lawyer, by the way, but this is the way that I understand it. So if the publications were saying, no, we're just stating the facts or we're just stating what we know to be true, that doesn't mean that they're doing it in bad faith. It means that they are reporting on something that they believe to be true.
Okay. So you can always say allegedly too, right?
Right. Yeah. Allegedly. That's why. Allegedly. That's why those little nouns are so important, because it's like you can get fucked by not saying probable or allegedly or speculated or like any of that. Like you can get in a lot of trouble. And we're seeing that a little bit more into like today's media, where people are starting to be a little bit more careful about how they accuse people of things. And probably the most compelling evidence against this claim that Harold Holt was a Chinese spy is that his own wife, Zara, said her husband didn't even like Chinese food.
So, yeah. Yeah, case closed on that one.
Case closed. We're done. So,
Yeah.
I don't know what happened to Prime Minister Harold Holt. I don't think anyone ever will, at least not within our lifetime. But it is very strange. And like I said, this really reminded me of JFK because this guy was booming in his political career. And all of a sudden, I mean, it's like he wasn't thinking, like it just seems like too like okay, so here's the thing. He knows this beach. He frequents this beach.
Yep.
He's been around the water a lot. His friends were even saying, "Hey, this water is a little bit too treacherous. Why are you still going out there?"
Yeah, that's wild that you would just
do
willingly
that.
go out there.
Yeah. And then
And for him to keep doing it too. I mean, he obviously knows how rough it is, first off, and he just keeps going back in.
Right. Right. And I mean, his friends are not coming back out with him. They're staying, back there. And probably the most sad part for me is and this always happens, is they were planning on going to lunch right afterward. And I just remember that sticking out in my mind so much because it was like, oh my God, they had plans. They all had plans that they were going to go and do. And it was just so jarring to me to think that it's reckless to me, honestly, because he knows what that's like. But also the fact that he was there and then he was gone, which I mean, ocean currents can do that, but you would at least expect a body to wash up on shore.
Yeah, I mean, it's the ocean though. I mean, anything can happen out there, especially around Australia. There's sharks, there's crocodiles.
Oh my God.
There's so much predatory life around that. I mean, if a body, it may not ever be found. We just be swallowed up by a shark for all we know.
And shark poop.
Yeah, because I mean, there are plenty of people who have just simply vanished in the ocean.
Right. Yeah. There's a couple of other ones. There's ones in Hawaii that I saw where spirits are claimed to I'm trying not to misquote because there's this island in Hawaii that's basically owned by the spirits, and the tribe that lives there, you basically have to get special permission to go there. And if the spirits don't want you there, they'll take you out and drown you. I mean, and
I know there's a lake in Georgia that has the same
lake. Yes, Lake Lanier.
There's a lake in Georgia. Yeah, that
Lake
has
Lanier.
that thing.
That one was very much in the running. However, Lake Lanier, when I was studying it, I actually found that it used to be a town in Georgia, and then through eminent domain, that town was taken back by the state. And then instead of making it into land, because the thing with eminent domain is yes, the government can come in and take your property, but two things have to happen in result of that. One, you have to be properly compensated. And two, you have to, the government has to prove that it's going to be for public use. It's actually the same thing that happened up in Central Park, because Central Park actually used to be a neighborhood until it was taken by eminent domain and made into a park. So this is what happened with Lake Lanier. It was a town. Government came in, said, we want your land. We're going to take your land. Here's some compensation, quote unquote, for it. Bye-bye. So the people did try to fight it. And basically what ended up happening was the state decided to put a man-made lake there. But they didn't tear down any of the buildings. They didn't excavate any of the graves. They didn't do anything. So if tides get super low, people can actually start to see buildings from the old town in Lake Lanier start popping up. And there was actually a case not too long ago of 700 bodies being found in Lake Lanier. And everyone was like, what the fuck is this? They never excavated any of the graves there, guys. Of course they're going to come back up. All they did was put water over a town. So and honestly, the same thing could probably happen with Savannah, Georgia as well, because Savannah has water underneath of it. So bodies could come up that are super old. So
Jesus Christ.
Georgia has a lot of water problems. Okay. We just listen, it's fine. But yeah, Lake Lanier was a cool one until I found that out and I was like, well, poop. So I wanted to err on the more conspiracy side of things today. So, what else than government conspiracies should I bring to all of you?
That's wild. There was a lot of twists and turns. A lot different than I was expecting. I didn't know if it's gonna be sea monsters or mermaids or what, but just a very political type espionage story, surrounded by this man's mysterious disappearance at sea.
Oh yes, yeah, and like that's just the things people will do for political gain always shock the shit out of me because I'm like, you are a demon. Like you are like you're not human. Like actually, they're not demons; they're reptiles. We talked about this, but but like I tried to keep it because I know it was a little bit more political than what I have typically presented. So I tried to keep it to like the 1960s and what was going on there. But this is something in Australia that is still talked about. Like there are still articles coming out about it. Like the book, Is the Prime Minister a Spy? That was written in the 80s. So like that was 20 years after the fact. So like this is still a very big topic in Australia is what happened to Prime Minister Harold Holt because he was only in office for a year and he had already made, political moves to get the people more money for children and their welfare. He'd already made moves to bring more people into the country because he saw it as not being right. And there's a lot of people can disagree with just those two things alone. So it does raise the question, was there foul play involved? But I don't know because he's out in the ocean. So like the ocean could just be the culprit.
Yeah, supposedly, yeah. Yeah, it's one of those things. It could be a simple thing of a guy just being reckless, going out in the ocean and drowning.
Right.
Or it can be this, convoluted thing of this guy goes in the ocean and gets abducted by Chinese divers, taken to a submarine, now is living somewhere in China.
Yep.
Under government protection. Very, very weird circumstances around this.
It really is. Like, I mean, and that's why it kind of reminded me a little bit of JFK going back to the beginning, because JFK was a major political figure. He was very young. He was making a lot of different reforms. And we know what happened to JFK. He was assassinated right out in the open. This was I'm not saying that what happened to Harold Holt is an assassination. And I'm not even saying what happened to JFK was for political gain on anyone's part. What I am saying is they remind me of one another and they're both sketchy as fuck.
Yes. Yeah, people certainly did gain something from them. So.
Both of them, like, it still stayed within the same party, but I mean, that still let someone else go to higher ranks. So yeah, that is what I had on Mr. Harold Holt. A little bit political for you guys today, but I hope you guys had fun and learned some things, especially about eminent domain. Because I have to deal with that sometimes being a realtor and it's not fun. So, but
yeah, very, very interesting twists and turns in that one. I wasn't expecting that kind of kickoff to Summer at Sea, talking about like a political espionage type thing. That's really cool. But yeah, this is only the kickoff to Summer at Sea. We do this through June, July, and August, 6 episodes in total. And we're gonna be talking about a lot of stuff this summer.
I'm so excited.
Next up, I will be presenting File 045, and we're gonna be talking about one of my favorite sea monster encounters of all time, the Pensacola sea monster attack.
Ooh,
super interesting. A lot of weird things surrounding this event. Definitely one of the more heavily documented sea monster attacks of all time. So we're gonna be talking about that. That's something I'm really excited to take a deep dive on and dissect that. And we've got a lot of things this summer. We're gonna be talking about, I believe, the Bermuda Triangle. Yeah, you're gonna be bringing that up. We got more sea monster stuff coming. We got more mysterious disappearances. Summer at Sea is going to be one hell of an event this year to really just give you something to listen to while you're at the pool, while you're at the beach, whatever it may be. To just make you #question everything before you go back into the water, as we do here. And make sure you guys go check out all the stuff we've had previously. We just got to talk about the Phoenix Lights, crop circles, plenty of stuff we've been doing this year. This has been a very good year for us. We've been talking about a lot of different things and trying some new stuff here at Cult Talk Conspiracy, just to make this more of a intuitive podcast for you guys to listen to and learn new things. I'm really excited for this return to Summer at Sea.
Sames. This first one kind of threw me for a little bit of a loop, but that's all right because like the next couple are going to be great. I don't know a whole lot about the Pensacola sea monster attack, so I for one am very excited to hear about this. I feel like it's gonna scare me, but I'm excited.
It's gonna be a fun one. I'm really excited to present it. I've been holding on to it for a while. I was going to do it like late last year, I think it was. And I was like, well, I'll just save that for Summer Sea.
I love those ones where we kind of keep them in our back pocket and we just let it marinate for a little bit.
Yeah.
There's a couple.
Yeah, so we'll be talking about that. And like I said, we got more sea monster stuff coming in this summer. Yes. We've got more mysterious people missing at sea, and just all the mysteries that surround the ocean, because it is just one of the most mysterious places on Earth, if not the most mysterious place.
Oh my gosh!
That old adage that people like to use, that cliche of we know more about outer space than we do about the ocean. I mean, it's a fact. It's cliched. Everyone says it, but unfortunately, it's true.
It really
There's
is.
a lot of stuff we don't know about down there.
It really is. So there's like, I saw a statistic and it was like every time someone goes down into like below so many meters, like there's always a new discovery that's made, whether it's a plant life or a coral or a new life form. I can't remember how many meters it was or like if it was like in the deep ocean or something, but yeah, like they're still discovering shit out there. 2024, they're still finding stuff.
Absolutely. There you guys have it. This was the very first edition to Summer at Sea 2, filled with mystery and conspiracy, all the things we love here at Cult Talk Conspiracy. File 044. And stick with us, guys. Next, on June 25th, we'll be bringing you the second edition at Summer at Sea, File 045. Make sure you guys go back and check out Summer at Sea last year. Hear all the weird, eerie stuff we talked about last year at the very first Summer at Sea. There's some really good stuff there. But I think that does it for us, Bailey. Make sure you guys follow us at Cult Talk Net across the board. Instagram, X, Facebook, all the things at Cult Talk Net. Super easy to find us. Odds are, if you go to a social media platform, you're going to find at Cult Talk Net there. Bailey and I are here every other Tuesday to talk about all the weird conspiracy stuff. Cult of Campbell, our Bruce Campbell themed podcast, it rears its head every now and then on Mondays. And Cult of Lore comes out every first and third Thursday of the month. That's Ben, Eric, and Jerry. And make sure you guys check out youtube.com/culttalknet for the full video experience. They work really hard on it and just adds a little extra depth to the episode. But there we have it. The very first voyage of Summer at Sea. And we're full steam ahead now.
Woohoo! Now
and
we gotta
the summer.
Awesome sauces. Well, I am so glad. I'm excited for the next one. I cannot wait.
Are you a fan of summer?
I'm not, actually. I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm sitting here and it's like 70-degree weather out and I've got socks and a hoodie on. Like I'm not. Nope. I will swelter because it is my outfit. No, I'm a fall spring person. I like it better cool. So
I like fall and I like winter. I like dead cold. I like the cold.
I like it dead cold if I can stay inside.
I like good chilly weather, good stew weather. That's what I like.
You made a chili like every Sunday, like throughout winter this past year.
Well, Sunday, that's my thing. Yeah, Sunday I throw something in the slow cooker. That's what I do on Sundays, and I clean and hang out and do my thing on Sundays. So that's my thing. I do a slow cooker Sunday every Sunday.
You have a way better routine than I do. Just veg out until I have to do something.
I can't. It's a gift and a curse, I guess.
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah, we doing something.
Well, you're more than welcome to come over to my house and have slow cooker Sunday at the Frost House. That would be fun. Ben would love it. But
but there you guys have it. Make sure you guys check out the next episode, June 25th, File 045. I've been Todd.
And I've been Bailey.
And until next time, question.